Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. Hope everyone has had and is having a great day. We are going to get started very shortly, within the next 30 seconds to a minute. We just want to let anybody remaining that is going to be joining the webinar to give them time, and we will then kick off shortly. Thank you, everybody, for your patience, and we're really excited about this. Talk to you shortly. All right, I think it's time for us to get the show on the road. So welcome everyone. This is our second edition, our second episode of Getting Geeky with Zerto. Today we're focusing on a very important topic, which we are calling leveling up with Zerto. In other words, from a technical standpoint, we're going to talk about upgrading Zerto today. So without further ado, I'd like to jump right into the deck and talk a bit about the agenda. AJ, if you could switch the screen forward since you own the deck.
Yep. Are you not seeing that?
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Got it. All right. So just to kick things off, guys, we're going to do an introduction just starting on the next slide. And then we'll dive deep into the whole upgrading Zerto process. Within that, we have quite a few topics that we want to discuss, including the Zerto lifecycle matrix around versions, why upgrade, specific changes that we made in Zerto 8, which are very important. And we're really excited about what we've recently launched in 8.5. So we also want to talk a bit about some of the features and functionality that have been added there. Also, best practices around upgrading, common challenges that we've seen within the support side quite a bit that we think could help you have more of a successful upgrade experience. And we're actually going to run a brief demo for you as well, just so you can see this all in action. And then finally, some helpful resources, and we'll wrap things up at the end. So pretty straightforward, but again, really, really pumped to go through this with you guys. Next slide, AJ.
Yep, 1 second here, Daryl. My apologies.
No problem.
Little technical difficulties.
Not a worry.
1 more second. Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right. Perfect. All right. So just to introduce ourselves, first off, my name is Daryl Colborne. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at Zerto. I've been with Zerto now for nearly 4 years. And AJ just bumped this up. One of the interesting things I wanted to share about myself is that I'm very passionate about languages and speak Spanish fluently. It's been something I started learning at 13 years old and have gone from there and still use it quite a bit today. So figured I'd share an interesting fact about myself in addition to my journey overall within Zerto. And to the right of me in that picture there is the dapper AJ Lastoff. AJ, can you introduce yourself, my friend?
Yes, of course. I'm the one controlling the slides here with a little technical difficulties, but yep, my name is AJ Lastoff. I'm a technical support engineer, and I will be going on 4 years here at Zerto in December, and passionate about traveling the world, or used to traveling the world. Hopefully get back there relatively soon. So,
What's the most exciting place you've been to, AJ?
well, I would say I just in February I went to Mexico, Tulum,
Awesome.
Mexico, and that was a fantastic trip.
Fantastic. Really good. Hopefully we'll be able to do some more travel when this whole crazy 2020 pandemic, we hope it ends in 2020, but eventually we'll get back out on the road again.
Absolutely.
All right. So just to kick things off, guys, here with the life cycle matrix. So as I alluded to earlier, the most recent updated version of Zerto that we have out now is 8.5. We just released that a few days back on November 1st. So ideally, if you're anywhere near 8.5 yet, we highly recommend you upgrade to it. There's some awesome features and functionality that we've included in this version, and AJ will go into some of that shortly. On the other side of the life cycle matrix, keep in mind that if you're on version 6.5, that has recently entered the end of support life phase. So we would need you to be able to, or we need you to at least upgrade to 7.0 to get back into general support. And what do I mean by end of general support and end of support life? Well, end of general support means that you're still able to get technical guidance through our support forums on MyZerto. You'll still have access to the knowledge base, and cases still remain available. But if you're in a situation where we find that you need to, or that we need to create some sort of bug fix or patch the issue to correct it, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to take it that far. We, at that point, would ask you to upgrade to a supported version. As for end of support life, the support is no longer provided on that version. You'd still have access to all that information on MyZerto, the knowledge base, etc. But the response from the support side is going to be to upgrade as soon as possible, just so we can get you into a supported version of Zerto. All right. So some real simple topics here, but upgrading is super important. Why are we doing this and why are we talking to you about this? Well, upgrading is going to give you or provide you with the latest and greatest of what we have out there within our platform. We're super passionate about what we've included. That's come from a lot of feedback from the community, including all of you as customers and partners. We also want you to be able to take advantage of some of the product improvements that we've had. So we are maniacal when it comes to fixing bugs or any product issues. So we try to do that as quickly as possible and incorporate that into more recent versions of Zerto. And then, of course, the last, we want you to be able to upgrade, we want you to upgrade so that you're on a version where you can receive that full amount of technical support from our talented support team and organization. All right, so with that said, AJ being our technical expert here, he is going to take over the presentation from this point forward. And everybody on the call, feel free to ask any questions in the chat or in the question section that you have. We have several experts in the backgrounds that are answering those questions for you. And I will follow back up towards later on toward the end of the presentation. So AJ, handing the mic over to you, my friend.
Thanks, Daryl. Got it from here. So on your path to 8.5, here are some key changes. If you are on 7.5 and upgrading to 8.0, ZVM to ZVM communication will take place over port 9071 instead of 9081. This is to enhance our security within the environment. Of course, keep 9081 open until all sites are off of 7.5. With regards to Azure, we have made a few permission changes. In 7.5, Zerto introduced permissions defined by a system-assigned managed identities. While in 8.0, Zerto switched to using user-assigned managed identities. So make sure you make that change in the Azure portal before upgrading to 8.0. So what are the new backup capabilities in 8.5? We have 4 new features to talk about for data protection. Let's go into each. First, due to your demand, we are now supporting public cloud storage in Azure and AWS as LTR repositories. By creating a new Azure storage account or a new AWS S3 bucket, it is possible to leverage cloud storage for your retention sets for backups. Second, when using JFLR, you had to be on the ZVM VM when accessing the specific files and folders. From there, oftentimes Zerto admins would need to put those files and folders back onto the production VMs manually. This was a major pain. With the new instant file and folder restore to production feature, it allows for automatic placement of individual recovered files back to the protected VM. This cuts out that manual process. Along with this, we have introduced a role-based access controller for the JFL administrator role. This feature allows the JFL admin to restore files and folders without viewing the contents. And lastly, we're also introducing the ability to enable LTR compression on your retention sets to further increase savings on storage consumption. As a pro tip, I highly recommend adding more resources to the VRAs to handle this compression. Therefore, our VRA recommendation is for a total of 2 CPU and 16 gigs of RAM. We have many new exciting updates for the cloud starting in 8.5. Starting off, VMware as a service is now supported in the following platforms: Google Cloud VMware Engine, Azure VMware Solution or AVS, and Oracle Cloud. The great thing here is that by leveraging these platforms in the same vCenter stack that many administrators have familiarity with, Zerto can provide business continuity and DR as seamlessly as an on-prem environment running vCenter. In AWS and plan for a later version in 8.5, we'll be supporting replication to and from all AWS regions. As for cloud enhancements, we're changing the way Azure permissions are handled upon install to provide a more granularity and avoid over permissioning. This is achieved by creating a custom role using the permissions listed in the Zerto prereqs and requirements for Microsoft Azure documentation. Now, coming from support, I'm excited to share this slide with you to introduce our new platform features in Zerto 8.5. Let's dive in. First, new automated evacuation and repopulation of VRAs. When configured, it is now possible to have Zerto automatically handle VRA deployment and or VRA removal when a host is added or removed from a vCenter environment. This eliminates a lot of the manual work that goes into provisioning or decommissioning a host. Second, in addition to the automation, it is possible to manage VRAs at the cluster level, allowing users to install multiple VRAs simultaneously. This feature requires that users specify IP pool ranges for specific host clusters for the ZVM to assign when installing VRAs. In addition to being able to install multiple VRAs simultaneously at the cluster level, it is also possible to uninstall VRAs simultaneously at the cluster level. This will save time on new installations and various flows in Zerto. Lastly, as an opt-in feature, we've increased security by enabling encryption between VRAs. This is yet another security improvement following the behavior in ZVR 8.0, where ZVM to ZVM encryption was introduced. This completes the encryption of all network connections within Zerto components. It is important to note that with this feature, there is a port change to be aware of. The new ports that the VRAs are going to communicate over will be ports 9007 and 9008, changed from 4007 and 4008. These ports must be opened between the VRAs before enabling the feature to ensure a seamless transition. What do you need to know before upgrading? Step 1. Read the release notes prior to upgrading to see if there are any port changes or new permissions that need to be enabled. Step 2. Make sure your environment is healthy, meaning there are no red errors or have powered off VRAs, no failover tests or move operations happening, and all syncs are completed. We want the site to be as stable as possible. Steps 3 and 4. When planning out your upgrade, upgrades need to be performed one major version at a time. We call this N+1, meaning if you're on 7.5 and want to upgrade to 8.5, you will need to upgrade your source and recovery sites to 8.0. Once there, you can then upgrade to 8.5. So what needs to be upgraded? So what needs to be upgraded? First, the ZVM will be upgraded at Site A, along with the VRAs at Site A. Once completed, you will then move to the ZVM and VRAs at Site B. Please note that Zerto does not have a preference as to which site gets upgraded first. It can be the DR site first, or it can be the production site. It does not matter. And lastly, it is important to know that there will be no new generated checkpoints written to the journal while the ZVM or VRAs are down. This will create an influx of alerting. Feel free to turn off the alerting during your upgrade window. Best practices. As stated before, review the release notes in MyZerto of the version update you are upgrading to. Along with that, review the interoperability matrix to confirm that the version of Zerto you are upgrading to is compatible with your hypervisor, hosts, vCloud, etc., etc. And that goes vice versa when upgrading your environment. Confirm that Zerto is compatible with your environment. Lastly, as a personal recommendation, when performing the ZVM upgrade, there will be a window to auto upgrade the VRAs. If you have more than 5 VRAs in the environment or you are an MSP, I recommend unchecking the auto upgrade virtual replication appliances and perform a manual upgrade of the VRAs. The reason behind this is that you'll have more control over which VRAs are upgraded during your upgrade window. If you wanted, you could even evacuate the VMs or disks off the VRAs before upgrading the specific VRA. Once the VRAs have been evacuated and upgraded, you can then move the VMs and disks back onto the newly updated VRA and update the remaining VRAs. This will lessen the downtime of generating checkpoints. If you choose to perform the auto upgrade, which means leaving the checkbox checked, we find that if one VRA fails to upgrade, it will fail the other VRAs behind it to be upgraded. If this should happen, you will need to open up a support ticket with Zerto to resolve. Here are a couple common challenges we see in support. Port connectivity issues. Make sure port 9071 is opened when going from Zerto 7.5 to 8.0. Or if you want the new VRA to VRA encryption, make sure ports 9007 and 9008 are open when you opt into the feature. Insufficient user permission. We mostly see this in Azure, so make sure you review our KB or our documentation that will be provided, and make sure you have the proper permission set when upgrading Azure to 7.5, 8.0, and now 8.5. Incompatible installer type. We see this issue in replicating to different hypervisors. If your source is VMware and you're replicating to Hyper-V, make sure you download the correct installer file and place it onto the associated site. VMware installer should land on the VMware site, and the Hyper-V installer should land on the Hyper-V site. Undo logs and cleanup tasks preventing an upgrade. With this error, you will need to open a support ticket with Zerto support. Please generate a 1-hour log bundle and submit it to support under the correct case number. Support will need to edit your database to remove any stale entries in the relevant table. Environmental system compatibility. Make sure to review the interoperability matrix to confirm that your environment is compatible with whichever version of Zerto you are upgrading to, and vice versa. All right, now the fun begins. How to upgrade. We're going to go over some steps and then a video. So, steps to upgrade. I highly recommend reviewing our best practice documentation on how to upgrade your Zerto software. The documentation has pictures of each step so you know what to expect. However, this can make the document a bit lengthy. If you boiled the upgrade process down, you end up with 5 steps. First step, as stated, make sure the environment is in a healthy state. Step 2, RDP into the ZVM VM. Step 3, stop the Zerto Virtual Manager service by clicking Start, Search Services, stop the Zerto Virtual Manager service. Step 4, once stopped, log into the local hypervisor and take a snapshot of the ZVM VM. If you have AWS or Azure, make a backup of the database from the ZVM by going to this location, program data /Zerto /data, and back up that ZVM_db.mdf file. Once done, switch back into the ZVM VM, right click on the Zerto installer and run as admin. Essentially, you just need to click next, 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 but I'll show you in the steps next. All right, so I want to provide a quick demo for everyone. So I'm going to show you what an upgrade looks like. For the sake of brevity, I've already stopped the Zerto services, took the snapshot, and placed the Zerto installer onto the ZVM VM. Now that that's done, the first item we are going to do is open the file that holds the Zerto software. We're going to right-click on the installer and run as admin. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, great. The next window describes what components of Zerto they'll be upgraded. This includes the ZVM, the VRAs, the VBA services, which manages the backups, the UI for all the new features, and our online service connector service, which handles the communication to our SaaS applications. We can simply hit next to continue. The license agreement populates, and we are going to accept the EULA, and let's do that now. Okay, the VRA upgrade window appears, and as I stated before in the slides, this is where you can uncheck to auto upgrade the VRAs. If you have more than 5 VRAs in your site or you're an MSP, uncheck this box and manually upgrade the VRAs one at a time. Or if you're planning on upgrading the ZVM and want to wait to upgrade the VRAs after hours, then uncheck the box at this time. By default, the box will be enabled. If you decide to leave it checked, the VRAs will auto upgrade. Just remember that if a VRA should fail to upgrade, then the remaining VRAs will also fail and a support ticket will have to be opened. Now, I only have 2 VRAs in my environment, therefore I'm going to leave the auto VRA upgrade option checked, and we'll hit continue. Which brings us to the validation window. From here, the software will validate the DB. It will confirm all sites are connected to this ZVM and its VRAs are compatible. And of course, it will check to make sure that this site and your peer site is within the N+1 window. At this point, we essentially ran an environmental check. If this passes, you'll have the ability to kick off the actual upgrade. So let's do that by clicking Run. As we can see, the software and its components are being installed and configured. Excellent, the upgrade completed. Because we chose to auto upgrade the VRAs, we see a note that the VRAs are upgrading in the background. Now, I recommend waiting a full minute before logging into the GUI to let the database and the GUI stabilize. So let's log into the GUI to watch the VRA upgrades. And of course, we're going to log into the GUI as normal. Okay, once logged in, we can see that there are errors across the screen. Don't worry, this is normal as the Zerto services were off, and don't forget, we're in the middle of upgrading the VRAs. So let's go to the Setup tab and see the status of the VRAs and which one is being currently upgraded. You will see a red X to indicate which VRA is currently being upgraded. You also see a status of upgrading, and then a status of latest to indicate that the VRA has completed its upgrade. Let's go watch. Excellent. The VRAs completed their upgrade. We can review the VPGs, and as you can see, the VPGs are meeting SLA. A couple are in a bitmap sync state, which is normal, as those VPGs VRA were just upgraded. For the most part, everyone's happy. Now let's go back to the VRAs and show that they're still healthy. And while we're there, let's check the Zerto version that we are now running. 8.5. That's excellent. And that's it, buddy. That's how you upgrade Zerto and its VRAs. Now we can delete the snapshot and perform the same actions on the other side. And I'm going to hand this back over to Daryl.
Great job, AJ. Really, really good demo. It's pretty easy overall to run that upgrade. So hopefully everybody has a good understanding now of how to make that happen and go from one version to the next. So most important thing here, guys, if there is any issue with the upgrade and you've checked our knowledge base, you've looked through our forums in MyZerto and you cannot find the answer, realize that we are here for you 24/7, okay? So it's as simple as opening a case through MyZerto. We'll get this presentation out to you so that you could even open a case just by clicking on the call to action there that says open a case. But do not hesitate to leverage us whenever you need to if you have any issues during the upgrade process. All right, and we also wanted to include some helpful resources for you, some specific knowledge-based articles around upgrading, some of the Azure managed identities, the KB related to that AJ had talked about, preceding recovery volumes, and then of course within MyZerto we also have quite a bit of technical documentation that covers upgrading the interoperability matrix. And one important thing to mention within that technical documentation column there is that if you are on an older version of Zerto where the installer does not exist within MyZerto, please contact support@zerto.com and we'll be able to retrieve that and provide that the installer for you. We will say, however, if you are on a much older version of Zerto and are looking to upgrade, let's say all the way to 8.5, we would highly recommend that you simply reinstall Zerto to make that happen, just because it's the path of least resistance. It's a lot easier and you tend to have less issues when doing it that way. And then finally, from the video side, we have a quick bits video that talks about some of the changes, or all of the changes actually, that took place in Zerto 8 that you need to be aware of if you're upgrading to 8 from 7.5, or of course going from 7.5 to 8 and then to 8.5. So feel free to take a peek at that as well once we provide access to the presentation. All right, now finally here, we want your feedback. So with the last episode of Getting Geeky with Zerto, we covered all the different types of syncs. It turned out to be a fantastic webinar. We got a lot of great feedback. We also got some really good critical feedback as well of things that you all would like to have included in these webinars moving forward. So later today, during my time, Eastern time, I'm going to send out a survey to all of you, and I would really, really appreciate if you could fill out that survey. It should take you no more than, I think, 2 minutes to fill out. We want your feedback. We want to constantly improve these as we continue to put on future episodes of Getting Geeky with Zerto. So that is it from the presentation side of things. There are a few questions that we received that I personally wanted to ask AJ and test him a little bit. Just for the wider audience, I think there were some great questions that were asked. But AJ, are you open to answering a few live just so we can get the wider audience aware of the answers to some of these critical questions?
Yes, of course. Shoot away.
All right, my friend. So one of the questions, the first one that we have is, do I have to upgrade one version at a time, or can I go directly from 7.0 to 8.0?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So you have to upgrade one version at a time. So that N+1 model, meaning if you're on 7.0 and want to upgrade to 8.0, then you have to upgrade your source and target sites to 7.5. Once both sites are there, then you can upgrade to 8.0.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, we have another customer on the line that is leveraging Azure as their recovery site. And this person had asked, is the installer the same for a ZVM and the ZCA, or do I have to do something different there?
Got it. Yep. So we get this a ton in support. So the installers are different. They are dependent on the actual environment they're trying to run it on. So you cannot run a ZCA installer on a ZVM site. So, if you have Azure or you're running Azure, make sure you go into Zerto, download the Azure installer, and then put it on that ZCA VM. And likewise for VMware and Hyper-V, make sure you down those specific installers and put them on their specific sites.
Very, very good. Another great question that I have for you, my friend. Do I have to create my VPGs or recreate my VPGs once I upgrade?
So that's a great question, and we have a lot of customers, that have hundreds of VPGs, if not thousands of VPGs in their environment. So that would be a laborious activity to recreate those VPGs. So that's the long answer. No, or the short answer is no, you do not. You can keep the VPGs syncing until you start the upgrade. But yeah, no, that's a great question.
Perfect. Very good. And I would say the lastly here, does the ZVM service restart the VPG?
Sorry, say that again?
So when doing an upgrade, does the ZVM service restart the VPG?
Oh, yes. So when doing the upgrade, the ZVM service will upgrade. Will restart. But when you do the VRA upgrade, the services are not touched in a ZVM environment.
Got it.
Now, well, actually, let me add on to that. If it's a ZCA, so Azure AWS, because the VRA and the ZVM are combined, which creates the ZCA, they're going to be upgraded simultaneously. So, I guess yes in the ZCA, but really no. Well, does the ZVM service restart during an upgrade? Yes, it does on the ZVM.
Perfect. All right. Those are the questions that I wanted to share with the rest of the forum here. So I think this covers all of it. What I would like to do though, guys, because I know we are still getting quite a few questions within the chat, I'd like to leave a little bit of time for us to be able to answer the remaining questions. So we'll keep the webinar running for an additional 5 minutes or so. I'm always that type of guy that comes up with a question, 20 minutes or an hour later, just because that's who I am. So if any of you do have questions that you come up with later on, please ask. And the best way to do so is to go to the support Q&A forum, which is within Zerto. You simply go to Zerto, click on the forums section and search for support Q&A, and you can post your question there. And throughout the rest of the day, Eastern time today, we're going to have some people really focused on that forum as well so that they can get quicker responses to you, just in case you have any questions that come to mind after we finish this session. So with that being said, we really appreciate your time today. Please feel free to stay on for an additional 5 minutes if you have any questions, just so we can get the remaining questions answered. And from there, we look forward to seeing you guys again in our next episode of Getting Geeky with Zerto. Thanks again for all the time, everybody, And I hope you guys are all well and safe.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, everybody, we still got quite a few questions coming in, so I'm going to give it a little bit more time for everyone to take the opportunity to ask whatever they have. We still have our Zerto experts standing by and answering your questions furiously in the background. So thanks for the questions. Keep them coming. All right, everybody. Thanks again for your time. If you have any additional questions, as I mentioned earlier, please go to my Zerto, log in, and then go to the forum section and ask your question within the support Q&A forum, and we'll get back to you there. Thank you all again for the time today, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.